For some of the top business headlines this hour. And Marcus, you're looking at the economic impact of what's going on in Ukraine. Once again, the European Union has stepped in to help out financially.
Yeah, the European Union is stepping in to help Ukraine's new leaders and to shore up the country's battered finances. The European Commission says that the EU is ready to provide the country with 11 billion euros. The announcement was made by Commission President Jose Manuel Barroso earlier. The offer is dependent on Ukraine reaching a deal with the International Monetary Fund, though, for additional aid. This, as Ukraine says it needs $35 billion or around 25 billion euros to stay afloat in the next 2 years. The European aid package would consist of both loans and grants, and it stretches as far as 2020. At least 1 billion would be released quickly to shore up Ukraine's finances in the short term. Let's take a closer look at what this aid package actually looks like. 3 billion would come straight from the EU budget. The European Bank for Reconstruction and Development would supply an additional 5 billion euros, and the European Investment Bank 3 billion euros. Both those institutions are majority owned by the European Union. Let's listen in now to Jose Manuel Barroso.
The package combined could bring an overall support of at least 11 billion euros over the next couple of years from the European Union budget and European Union-based international financial institutions. It is a package designed to assist a committed, inclusive and reforms-oriented Ukrainian government.
Now, the pledge from Jose Manuel Barroso came ahead of an EU emergency summit on the crisis in Ukraine, and it will take place on Thursday. We're going to take a look now at how the stock markets are faring. We've seen a lot of toing and froing this week when it comes to stocks as investors are keeping an eye on the Ukraine situation. It's been a volatile week so far. Let's just say that. It almost feels like an understatement after the gains that we saw yesterday. This session, the American indices, they're quite steady after those significant gains that I was talking about before yesterday. Investors, they're also digesting a report that shows the US private sector added fewer than expected jobs in February. We're going to take a look at the details in just a moment. In Europe at the close, the markets, they were in negative territory. It follows strong gains on Tuesday. All right, I'm going to hand it back to Laura, I believe. We're going to listen into John Kerry.
That's right. Thanks very much, Marcus. The US Secretary of State is just about to talk now. Let's have a listen.
For a tremendous job of hosting the International Support Group on Lebanon today. And I really don't want, none of us want, the importance of what we came here to talk about with respect to Lebanon be lost in all of the obvious discussions that have taken place with respect to the question of Ukraine. But the countries that came to Paris today for this very important and timely meeting are all of us bound together by a very strong commitment to Lebanon. As Syria's conflict spills over Lebanon's borders and as the refugee crisis grows, we are deeply concerned for the security and the sovereignty of the people of Lebanon and for their simple ability to be able to chart their own futures and fulfill the same basic aspirations that they share with everybody else on this planet. The President Suleiman, pulled out and showed me a very dramatic charting that goes for the last few years, 4 different charts that show you the extraordinary change in Lebanon of the numbers of refugees as every year upwards the entire country has become a splotch of red. Instead of red dots, the entire border is really red today because there are almost 1 million refugees in Lebanon. This has an extraordinary impact on the internal dynamics of a country. People who are looking for work, people who work for less, it drives wages down, it changes the nature of that nation. So the United States is very proud to have provided Lebanon just in the last year or so, with respect to its development process, $340 million the last few years in humanitarian aid, and we will continue to support the Lebanese armed forces and other security institutions. Of course, you can't talk about the values of sovereignty, security, and determination and economic opportunity without coming quickly back to the events of the last days in Ukraine. Ukrainians told me yesterday in Kiev how desperately they want a government that has the consent of the people and an economy that gives them a chance to be able to live just like everybody else. I told the story of a person who had been to Australia who came back and said, we just want to be able to live the way other people live, the way we've seen them live. Well, today our fellow foreign ministers and I met separately with our Ukrainian counterpart, Foreign Minister Deshitsia, and our Russian counterpart, Foreign Minister Lavrov. And we met as a group also, a group of concerned countries. We agreed to continue intense discussions in the coming days with Russia, with the Ukrainians, in order to see how we can help normalize the situation, stabilize it, and overcome the crisis. And those intentions are intentions that are shared exactly as I have described them between Russia, the United States, the European countries, and Ukrainians who were here. All parties agreed today that it is important to try to resolve these issues through dialogue. The United States, with our partners, is focusing intensely on a remedy. And I don't believe, as any of us believe, President Obama doesn't believe it, I don't believe, the other countries we're working with, I know they don't believe, that any of us are served by greater or further confrontation. And also, we met today to discuss these issues because we cannot and will not allow the integrity of the sovereignty of the country of Ukraine to be violated and for those violations to go unanswered. Russia's violation of Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity has actually united the world in support of the Ukrainian people. And this morning, Secretary Hagel announced that the Defense Department is taking concrete steps to reassure our NATO allies, steps like expanding our aviation detachment in Poland and our contributions to NATO's Baltic Air Policing mission. This is on top of other steps that the United States has already taken, steps like suspending our bilateral discussions with Russia on trade and investment, suspending U.S.-Russia military engagement, and suspending preparations for the G8 summit in Sochi. Now, as I said yesterday in Kiev, and as President Obama has said as well, and as I said to Foreign Minister Lavrov today, Russia made a choice. And we have clearly stated that we believe it is the wrong choice. That is the choice to move troops into Crimea. Russia can now choose to de-escalate this situation, and we are committed to working with Russia and together with our friends and allies in an effort to provide a way for this entire situation to find the road to de-escalation. The United States is ready to work with all parties to make that happen and to make it happen as soon as possible. We renew our call for Russia to speak directly with the government of Ukraine, to send troops back to their bases, and to welcome international observers and human rights monitors. And we've seen today with what happened with Special Envoy Seri just how important it is to ensure the safety of those monitors and of those observers. Ukraine's territorial integrity must be restored and must be respected. From Lebanon to Ukraine, the United States stands ready to help our friends in a time of need. And today, those needs obviously are great in different places, different kinds of needs in different places. We especially thank our friends here in France for their partnership as we work to address these challenges and many others. For instance, Iran's nuclear program, we're working together. Violence in the Central African Republic, we're working together. The pursuit of reconciliation in Mali, we are working together. All of these efforts require international cooperation. So coming together as a community of nations, as we did today, is the best way to resolve these kinds of problems that concern us. And today, I believe we initiated a process that over the next couple of days, we hope can bring us to that de-escalation and to a path for the protection of the integrity of a country and for the building of stronger relationships between other nations. On that note, I'd be delighted to take any questions.
Great. Our first question comes from Amy Guerin of the Washington Post, and there is a microphone on.
Thank you. Mr. Secretary, you just renewed the U.S. call to Russia to speak directly to the new Ukrainian government. You were hoping that that would happen today, right, here between Lavrov and the Ukrainian foreign minister who accompanied you here, apparently for that purpose. Why did that effort fail, and what assurance did you get, if any, from the Russians that they might be willing to have that kind of conversation in the future?
Well, Anne, let me make it absolutely crystal clear. I had no expectation, zero expectation that today that kind of a meeting would take place. I did not expect it, and we did not ask the foreign minister to come here for that purpose. So the premise of the question is really just not factual in terms of what we were expecting. We brought him here because we knew that it was inappropriate for us to have discussions with Minister Lavrov, whom I knew I had a meeting with, without being able to consult with our Ukrainian friends. And it would have been inappropriate for us to come here to Paris and for a group of nations to join together and make some kind of an agreement without the appropriate consultation and engagement and involvement and sign-off from the people who are concerned. This is a Ukrainian decision, and we respect that. So we met, all of us as a group of foreign ministers, with the foreign minister from Ukraine. We went through the things that we had discussed today. We solicited opinion. I will be in touch later tonight with the foreign minister as well as with the prime minister of Ukraine. They're traveling to Brussels for meetings tomorrow with the EU, and we will continue that discussion. I will also continue the discussion with Foreign Minister Lavrov in Rome tomorrow. Foreign Minister Lavrov will then return to have discussions with President Putin, which he also did today. He will continue to have that discussion. And I will obviously have an opportunity to have a discussion with President Obama and with the team in the White House in order to discuss the road forward. But we